In 1961, a great businessman purchased a hamburger business for $2.7 million. Today, that company is worth over $100 billion. Ray Kroc was not only a great businessman, but he purchased a business from the McDonald's brothers, and he helped the company experience exceptional growth with great coaching and leadership. John Maxwell writes tons of books about leadership. In fact, he writes books that emphasize the point that when you attract other leaders, when you attract them, you only get so far. But when you develop leaders, you and your company experience explosive growth. Ladies and gentlemen, today I am talking about for your team, it's going to take not average, but great coaching, exceptional coaching for explosive growth. You see, the whole nature of team is what helps our world go round. All of us individuals are hooked into organizations, groups with our company, on a teaming environment competitively, that plug us in and help us to evolve, to innovate, to execute on ideas, visions, goals, etc. Formally, we can look up, which I have, and I have in my notes, the definition of team. And team, by definition, as a noun, is when several individuals, when they group up as players to form one side in a competitive game or sport, like football or even debate, or even when they form a company. As an adjective, we know as coaches that the most important thing when you recruit, you want to recruit someone who's a great what? Team player. Or an individual that has great what? Team effort. That verb, the formal definition, talks about when you team up with someone, that you're joining forces, that there's an action behind yoking up and connecting with one side for a competitive purpose to get an advantage. You may have even heard team described as maybe an army, maybe a band, a company. There are many companies. Maybe a crew, maybe even a squad, or as the young people say, as a clique. But regardless of what you've heard, there are many examples of teaming. And today we're talking about, for your team, it's going to require not average, but great coaching to experience explosive growth. Speaking of, I want to talk about one of the most winningest basketball coaches of all time. You see, Pat Summitt, we all know, is legendary. She is or was a competitor, someone who's inspirational. She came from a family with brothers, and that's how she got in the game of basketball. You see, Pat, the head coach of, or the former head coach of the Tennessee women's basketball team, won almost 1,100 games of the 1,300 that she played. She has the winningest title as a D1 coach, D1 NCAA women's coach as well. She won 8 NCAA Division I championships. She won 16 SEC tourneys, 16 SEC regular seasons. She also was a 3-time WNBA Coach of the Year, and the awards go on and on and on. But I want to pause right here, because there was a rivalry that evolved starting back in '95 between UConn as well as between Tennessee. And in the midst of that rivalry, Pat Summitt, she received a death threat. The FBI reports. See, what happened was, a fan of UConn sent her a letter and told her that by not only defeating UConn and winning the national title, that served as her sentence for death. And I'm going to pause here and tell you, if you are coaching, if you are leading a team, if you're pulling individuals forward, anything that's above yourself, and you're fostering energy and you're advancing forward, and you have someone that has placed a threat over you, I want to tell you, don't you quit. You keep going. Don't get deterred. This too, it's going to pass. That's part of the journey. And much like Pat Summit, your championships, your awards, your recognition are coming soon. But for your team, it's going to take not average, but exceptional coaching to experience explosive growth. So, Pat always shared with her team a good word during halftime, and I was watching a video. And one of the things that I like, she always started about defense, okay? She was telling the young lady who was in the middle, make sure that you defend the middle. And that young lady accepted, right? Then she talked about stats. You've got to have someone as a coach, as a team leader, you've got to have someone on your team that if you don't have the access to it, you got to know the stats that are going on. I've seen many individuals coach in basketball that had no earthly idea of what the other team was leading in because they didn't even think of accessing that information. But Pat used this to her advantage. In fact, they were down by 1, but because she had the stats, she could encourage them in the area to help push them forward. She also challenged her team players. I need all 5 of you, the whole team, on the floor working for shots. If you are leading a team, in order to be exceptional, you've got to challenge and encourage and develop in every player. You need everyone working to win and to score. And lastly, Pat always had a sense of urgency. This last video I watched of her, she had a sense of urgency, and the players did too. That's something that starts from the head. Away with these average, mundane leaders that are okay with average. Challenge your team to have a sense of urgency to finish with a certain amount of time. Away with excuses. We're going in this direction, and communicate expectations on what you need and want done. And as I revert to my notes, I'll tell you this. You need certain types of individuals on your team. One might be the influencer. And the influencer is the one that is a peer that's going to help translate the vision from the coach, the leader, to the team to help stimulate and get everyone on board. Then you need a finisher. A finisher is one, and I like this because I raised one, that under pressure, no matter what, the finisher is going to do what it takes, regardless of what distractions may come, to complete the job and get the win. You also need a researcher, someone that has the facts, that can go and get the stats, that have the information. And then you need a leader. Maybe the leader is the QB, who can bring all of this together and execute under command. The leader might be the point guard that's bringing the ball down, that can read the defense and knows where her or his players are on the court and is also willing to go in. Or maybe the leader is actually you. That individual that's forging the team forward. And I'll tell you this, the key components, you've got to be able to communicate. And here's what I mean by communicating. Most effectively, you've got to have this apart, because it's constantly updating each member, never assuming that everyone has the same information. And I'll tell you, you also have to have accountability. Each team member should be holding everyone accountable. Average is not acceptable. You want to be great, to be exceptional, to experience explosive growth. You also have to have members that are reliable. They can be there. They will show up. They're going to execute according to what you've established as the coach. And lastly, you need trust. Without it, if they don't trust you, they're not going to follow you. Ladies and gentlemen, I took time on Tuesday. This is Elyse. I'm living my best life. In fact, I'm in Columbus recording this. It means so much to me to share with you these thoughts from me, thoughts from Elyse, as I take time on Tuesday to start to encourage you in whatever journey you may be encompassing. And just remember, For your team, it's going to take not average, but exceptional coaching to experience explosive growth. Have a wonderful, fantastic day.